operating unroadworthy vehicles who were running unreliable transport to the department, they have already been terminated and replaced.
All right.
279.
Yeah,
Until
27. Okay, that's
22.
so. Perhaps to supplement that information, can I request that we be provided with the routes and the schools, so that we can link, because as it is now, we don't know for which school and whatnot. But the question I had, particularly with regard to the number of service providers terminated for operating unroadworthy vehicles, according to your submission on page 279, is only 2 service providers. And even in your own evidence, you've said you've even received recent reports of, vehicles that are not road worthy. Perhaps, is there an explanation for that? Is it because they are self-correcting? Because 2 terminations in the face of the epidemic we are having of unroadworthy vehicles, it does not, on the face of it, appear to be a reasonable response or decisive response to the issue of unroadworthy vehicles.
Remember, we said scholar transport is a moving target. As at this report, this was the situation.
Okay.
But the situation changes daily. Like I said, that was during the first inspection when the schools opened in January last 2024. So when we opened the schools, then that is what we found, and people brought roadworthy buses because they knew everybody was on the ground. Like when the schools open, portfolio committees on the ground, we are on the ground, the MECs are on the ground, so everybody's on the ground. So what the operators do is they will bring roadworthy buses at that particular time, knowing that obviously the traffic officers everybody is on the ground. But as soon as that period that everybody's on the ground lapses, then that is when you will find the unroadworthy vehicles and all these coffins that you find there. So as at the time that the portfolio committee requested this report, this was the situation. But it changes as time goes on because like I'm saying, scholar transport is a moving target. It changes every day.
Okay. The report, ma'am, I'm looking at is not a report to the portfolio committee, but a submission to the commission. If you go from page 276 to 283, so is a report dated February 2025. Is a very recent report. Do you see that?
Yeah, Commissioner, on this, and this question to us by the portfolio committee. And we take advice from our, and it's a pity my colleague Mr. Stone is not here. He always put it best. He's the chief traffic officer. He explained to us in the last meeting to say, what is an unroadworthy vehicle? These are the things that we look at when we say a vehicle is unroadworthy. So because they were also warning us of a situation where we'll willy-nilly terminate and say a vehicle, and we then pause to say, let this part of an unroadworthy vehicle be a determination by the traffic law enforcement officers who are trained to inspect a vehicle. On some of this, on most, not some, on most of these vehicles that will, by the look of an eye, say this vehicle is unroadworthy. When they take it through the testing station, there are things that they look at for them to arrive at an unroadworthy vehicle like the one we had now impounded and terminated last week, the one that had an accident in Mega City here. So at the time of us writing this report, correctly so, it's a combination of things in terms of the pandemic, but the unroadworthiness of this, of what we would pick up in line with the advice of the traffic law enforcement officers. These are the 2 reports that we can then produce when we are asked, what is it that led you to determine this vehicle is unroadworthy? Otherwise, if we were to use by by the eye, I'm sure half of them will be off of the roads. Mr. Stone explained, and I was comfortable with the MEC because he presented it at the level of EMC to say, but exactly what is an unroadworthy vehicle? What leads to us? Because impounding vehicles is also a challenge. If you don't have a registered pound, people come with all sorts of things that, no, my vehicle had new tires. Now these tires that are here are not for and so on and so forth. So we had to take an hour for him to take us through that process, and we were happy that we took that advice, so that what we work with is a report coming from law enforcement.
All right. What we'll request then also for 5, the service providers were terminated for providing an unreliable transport. If we can have further information on the routes of the listed service providers, the routes and the schools they service, so that we're able to triangulate our information. So but what I wanted to check from you, when I saw the rightly indicated, you've been given the same budget as last year. So what is the impact of that on the existing service? Because the 89 is for the service that you need to provide, but you're not providing. But what is the impact of that, of not even having inflation related increase on your budget for the current service, let alone those who are not getting the service at all?
Commissioner, hey, it's sad. It's sad because even last year during the adjustment, we requested some little bit of adjustment to be able to pay operators. That was not given. We are still engaging with Treasury to show them the gravity of the situation that we are having. It's unfortunate because just last week, Commissioner, we were sitting with payments. We at least paid until January 2025. We were working overtime over this weekend to at least process the February, March, and part of April. That means accruals for us. And the very accruals are coming from the 450 that you are talking about. Hence, we are saying come September, if the talks between us and Treasury does not go our way, we'll be having the same situation that we were having last year, of the budget having been depleted and operators not being able to be paid. That is the harsh reality of what we are dealing with now. So it will be unfortunate. It will be an unfortunate and I'll say a non-justified limitation, if I put it in English. Yes, yeah, law.
All right. Thank you. Allow me, you were referred to one of the audit reports by my learned colleague, Mr. Likoma, but you were referring to the 2019. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into the others, but you'll see that there are similar findings for 2020, where money has been paid to service providers for no service, 2020, 2021, 2022, as well as 2023. You've already indicated that you will submit a report on progress made in recovering those monies that were paid for no value. I'm requesting that we also include reports for the other monies for those years I've mentioned, that are also highlighted in the various service reports, audit reports, and the commissioner will assist us in terms of timelines for all those submissions. And also now, before I move to a close, there are 2 issues I want to canvass. The issue of rationalization. We spoke about it with the Department of Education on the last occasion, and we've seen from their report, and also we've received a further submission where there is a concession that the rationalization does result in increased demand in some instances for scholar transport. And we asked the department about whether your department is part of the consultation processes when issues of rationalization are being discussed. If maybe I can just get an indication from you as a COSATMA, are you consulted where rationalization can potentially result in demand for more scholar transport?
Chairperson, previously we were not, but since 2023, we found each other with the Department of Education, where we sit together and plan these things together. But previously, we'll just get a list of schools that have been rationalized. But we are now working as a team. Like we are saying, we're having those meetings where we sit and then we deliberate on these issues. So I would say we do consult from
All right.
2023.
The issue of SLA, but we've received from the Department of Justice that is still a challenge in that drivers, notwithstanding the provisions of the SLA, are still not vetted to check if they are on the offender register. Do you want to, I mean, can you comment on that? Is that correct, the information we've received, or is it incorrect?
I would not say it's correct or incorrect, Chairperson, but what I can say is, truly speaking, on a day-to-day basis, you'll find one driver today, the other tomorrow, because drivers are solely the responsibility of a service provider. And you would not know what happened between today and tomorrow, where maybe the service provider and the driver have their own employer-employee situation.
Okay.
Because what we do on a weekly basis is to want to see that affidavit that says the driver is not on the list. But it's I would say it's something that we really cannot control because of the employer-employee relationship between the service provider and their drivers.
Okay.
So I think maybe we need to go back and sit down as a department and come up with measures of how best we can deal with the situation. But really, truly speaking, it's a bit difficult because of that.
All right, but the legal requirement is not an affidavit. It requires that someone actually checks. Because an affidavit, I can wake up and write, police, they don't know whether I'm telling the truth or not. I'm asking about the department vetting those drivers, not them presenting that they are not on the register. Is that happening?
No, Chairperson, we don't vet the drivers. I think it's a note we'll take home. It's an important issue that we are raising. In one of the engagements with the providers, some of the providers, it was in a community meeting, but there were a few people there. One of the issues that was raised was also about drunken driving, where drivers who park the buses at school after the kids disembark. They have their own small anyana space where they park, and then they hitchhike, go drink, come back. It's an allegation. Come back, take this buses load, because there's nothing that they do in between, because they also don't travel back to with the bus, which is empty, and come back again, because it becomes a double cost for the provider. So they are in a village somewhere there. They then they've got a space where they would have graded. Some of them even park the buses inside the schoolyards because it's even safe. They walk out. As to what they do, they come back, and we have some of these challenges, a situation of Kunan. So we take that as one of those important things that we will look into. We have not been doing it. It's an important thing that we can look into.
And now
And
coming
adding
back
to that, Chairperson, since we have the JPCS cluster meetings every month with the South African Police Services and the Department of Justice. I think it's something that I will bring there through my other cap, just to say how best we can deal with the drivers of the scholar transport. So that is something we will definitely take home. Thanks.
Now, coming back to the question we packed, now I'm closing, Dr. Kekana. What is it that your department takes accountability for? And let me qualify, like I said, the accountability is things you know your department should have done. It's within their control. They have the capacity and they have not done. So meaning there's no but this time after the but this one. What is it? If there's anything, if there's nothing, you can also indicate there is nothing.
Okay.
Yes.
No, Commissioner, I responded to the question earlier, and I'm going to respond in the 4 issues I've raised. The first one, I said non-payment of invoices in 30 days. It's what we should do. It's within our means and our control because we have the budget to do so. We've been struggling in that space owing to capacity and inefficiencies, what I myself and provincial HOD refer to as inefficiencies within our own operations. That's the first thing. Money is there. The invoice came on time. We need to process and pay it within 30 days. And when you look at our 30 days, because we remember we report to provincial treasury every month about the non-payment of 30 days. When you look into the last 6 months, 30 days non-payment, it's been shrinking, it's becoming better and better. So that's the area we have control of. Number 2, it's efficiencies in terms of processing claims and giving feedback to service providers on time. And because we're still doing a lot of stuff manual, thanks to Public Works, they've now given us authority to use the Rea Patela system, and I'm told we are launching it next week. Is it this week? Next week. They're coming through to the province to officially now launch the system. The problem here is that the service provider submits an invoice, and because there's this box, no capacity, nobody sits and check the invoice. Service provider traveling from far drops the invoice only for him or her to be called tomorrow that your invoice lacks 1, 2, 3. And the person has traveled far back with the money that she or he doesn't even have, must come back to the department. Those are some of the inefficiencies. Now we've then said, from now henceforth, anyone who bring in the invoice have a checklist. Here's a checklist. Take the checklist, go through the invoice, tick the checklist, attach the checklist to the invoice for it to move to the next stage. Any invoice that moves to the next stage without that checklist should not even be an option. So that thing it's within our means. It has been a shortfall, and it has affected service providers badly. The third thing, it's law enforcement. We are the department responsible for community safety and transport management. In transport management, law enforcement is our responsibility. Our traffic officers must do their work, and do their work without fear or favor. We can't be having a situation that Merantona explained, where a traffic officer takes a disc from this non-compliant bus, and tomorrow that bus you find it on the road with another. And in fact, the allegation is even worse. It's that it will even be with an operation permit from the Northwest again. Let alone those that come from the prevalence has been those that come from the other provinces. It's within our means. Traffic officers reports to my department. We are the ones that must make sure that we troubleshoot to improve. And in our troubleshooting meeting held with the MEC last week, was it last week or week before, where one of my colleagues was clarifying us on this issue of roadworthiness of a vehicle, because that meeting was strictly for scholar transport. So we then put it there to say, law enforcement, please do your work. It is within our own control, Chairperson. I think I just forgot the fourth one, but overall, Chairperson, anything that is within our means, that we're not waiting for somebody to send us an email, that I can walk downstairs from my office and get it done in the building, is our responsibility, and for us to improve efficiency we need to look into those low-hanging fruits with the advices received from this commission. Thank you.
There's the implementation protocol between yourself and the Department of Education. Your own assessment, which, the protocol sets out what you should do, what they should do. Your own assessment, is the Department of Education living up to its responsibilities in terms of that relationship?
Chair, in terms of the outright issues that are between ourselves as joint partners on this, we have been doing well, as Mayor Antona indicated. The establishment of the war room, the engagement since 2023 has improved a lot of ground between ourselves and them. There's areas where we think we should be working much closer, and we've identified those, some partly due to the issues raised within the commission, that we think, where I'm seated, that maybe here we could have done it better. But it is a responsibility that is working. It just wants us to be more focused on some of those things that would normally fall within the cracks, and would then come here not knowing whose responsibility is which. But they are prescriptive, as you see them here. And I think from where we are, there's a lot of improvement.
Okay. I'm not asking about joint responsibility at this point. Perhaps I can refer to 256. It sets out, we'll come back to you, 2565.1. And then I'll give you a moment to look through what your counterparts are required to do. And then you can advise your own assessment. Are they living up to those responsibilities?
Chairperson, I can only attest to those that we do that are directly affect what we normally do as our daily business. I mean, for example, we have and if you don't mind, Chair, me reading them as they are, so that you understand my response from which point I'm coming. The first one, A, says key stakeholder and learner transport system. It's us and them. You're talking about learner transport system, it's us and them. Talking about anything that is packaged within that A. 2, ensure the constitutional obligation of the right of education and uphold. That's their part. I would with your indulgence, ask that they respond to that part. Number C, provision of annual situation of learners who are statistics. Yes, that's also on their part for learner transport. Remember, this is the needs now.
Yes.
They give us the needs, as my colleague responded. We then provide the service. So it's a reliance on them.
Okay, the question, you can read them, but
Yes.
I want you to say, are they living? As you read, you say this one, thumbs up.
Okay.
Or thumbs
All right.
down. Yes.
Okay.
So
All right.
you are free to
Now,
do
in
that.
terms of the key stakeholder and learner transport, that's that one we're doing it together. On the constitutional obligation, is their responsibility purely. I would still want to leave it to them and not judge whether they are doing it properly or not, because it entails other issues. On the provision of annual, in terms of learner transport, learners who are eligible for learner transport, they're doing it because they're giving us the needs, but it was limited from the investigation and the current situation, where we had that 8,000 learners owing to routes and schools that were not advertised. But we have since conducted an audit. Now we know where we are. But we're also taking to the war room the issue of the moving target that Mayor Antona spoke about, because it entails to this issue as well, wherein there will be rationalization. Some schools will be closed, others will open, and so on. And I think on that one, we are fine. In terms of risk management, with reference to the transportation of learners, legal responsibility in cases of an accident, they have been very, very, very helpful on this. In fact, they're running this like one of those major responsibilities. From our side, it's an agenda item on our It's one of those agenda items on our room. Monitoring of learner transport system performance through the regional and this one I would give them a distinction here, Chair. They've raised issues that we have not even been aware of. Dr. RSM being Dr. RSM Bujana Lining maybe because there hasn't been any major incidents in Dr. KK. It doesn't mean that there isn't. So learner transport policy implementation on this one, indeed, Chairperson, they are implementing this responsibility, and they're raising a lot of issues with us, including some of the suggestions that we are looking at in terms of safety-related matters. That's my response, Chairperson. On this one, there's on the next page, there's a implementation of controls in support of efficient learner transport system. Here, Chair, the controls we've put them together. In fact, when we started this, the acting SG, and I'm glad he's here, Dr. Mvula, in 2023, we started this process and of having these regional teams doing this responsibility. Liaison with all relevant stakeholders. We share this responsibility with them, but they take the larger part because they deal with scholar challenges with school principals directly on their own agenda, school-related agenda meetings. We are told that scholar transport is one of those agendas in our absence that they deal with on their normal routine of dealing with education-related matters. Establish clear communication channels. There are communication channels, Chair. We're lacking here, and I think the issue of the call centers earlier has also broadened our horizon, that we need to look into a specific call center line purely dedicated to scholar transport, which I think once we establish it with them, it will also improve on this communication protocol. Submission of resource plan for budgeting to the Northwest to COSATMA annually. They do submit to us a resource plan, albeit with the shortfalls that we've picked up. But we then said, because we now conducted an audit from our side, we're taking this audit to the whole room to say what else, which other school do we think we might have missed? An exercise which we have not done before. Now we have done it. From their side, they would also say, no, there's this school there, there's this school there. And then we then come together with a solution. And that question, Chairperson, it's a very important question, because it says, how do we finally come up to a solution where each party takes responsibility for what is entailed in the document? And I think that's basically the essence.
Yes, and we are coming then to page 258. Have you, as a department, been living up to your responsibilities on paragraph 5.2?
Correct, Chairperson.
Yes.
The lead department in terms of scholar transport in the provision of a learner transport system, it's us. We've been taking the lead. And in fact, in most of the meetings, our directors are the ones that are chairing these meetings, because we are the lead department. Accountable and responsibilities for public transport policy development and implementation thereof. It's us, Chairperson. We are doing this. We have identified two shortfalls in terms of those policy provisions to say exactly what else do we need to do. One is not necessarily relying, is to have also a provincial policy that addresses issues that emanate from the national learner transport policy. We take that as advice, and I think it's good advice, Chairperson. Responsibility for consulting with all stakeholders in the development of the learner transport policy. We invite in the last Lekgotla of the Department Strat Plan, our 25, in fact, all the Strat plans we've had, we've invited stakeholders to participate. I know in the current one, our invitations landed late to stakeholders. The commuter bus organization did not attend, but other stakeholders attended, including your Santaco, that also has got a component of scholar transport as a taxi industry. Custodian of learner transport policy, we are the custodian of the learner transport policy chairperson. We are responsible for compilation, submission, and management of learner transport system budget, correct? We've already done that, albeit we didn't get what we asked for, and we're going to try again. Conduct assessment and management thereof, we do that, chairperson. It's us. Liaison with education on learner transport system. The war room is there. We deal with all this at that level. Liaison with relevant stakeholders, provision of transport facilities, e.g. bus, shelters, and road conditions. I think in terms of road conditions, my last, the latest letter was on Wednesday last week or so to Provincial Public Works, asking them to deal with bridges in Moretele and other areas that were flooded, which is not our responsibility for roads, but we talked to our sister department of Public Works to assist us. Stakeholders, Merantona has established there's a bus commuter, a learner transport bus association called Sandsbok, small bus operators, something. They meet with the team frequently lately, and I think those meetings have assisted us to troubleshoot a lot of problems. Enter into a legal contract with learner transport service providers. The SLA is in place. Ensure compliance with the agreed contract requirements. Chairperson, we're working hard to ensure that compliance, but we have also picked up some of the loopholes that some recommendations suggest amending in this regard. Payment of learner transport service providers is our responsibility, Chair. I've highlighted the shortfalls of sometimes not meeting the 30 days, and it's not for all of them, Chair. You'll see, I think there's a report we did for the portfolio committee that would then indicate the percentage. The only scale which was large was when we had the budget collapse in November, and that we note as a huge impact on the service. Monitoring, Chairperson, of service performance through appointed service providers, that's our responsibility, Chairperson. We do that. Ensure that contracted service providers adhere to the agreed route specification. It's us, Chairperson. We also facilitate scheduled and unscheduled learner testing of buses. We do that twice a year, but we have since like I indicated with this new committee, that will be doing more of this, and it will include an amendment to the current SLA. Draft and submit memorandum and recommendations to the bid committee. We do that. We also administer contracts for compliance and performance by providers. And the last one, Chairperson, that deals with maintenance of a database of all approved learner transport contracts and vehicles tested. That's our responsibility, Chair, in totality. Thank you.
Thank you. The last question from me, Dr. Kakana, is can you please provide us, with a summary of the key commitments that you are making as a department to address the issues that we've canvassed since the start of the inquiry? Some of the key commitments.
We'll do so, Commissioner. Thank you very much. Oh, you want me now?
Yes, unless you don't have them.
No. I can provide.
Yes.
We'll still put them in writing.
Yes.
Yeah. No, Commissioner. Honestly, first of all, we appreciate the process that we have gone through. It's also one of those full commitments. Us coming here, it's a commitment, Chairperson, that on its own to come and explain ourselves, and we take responsibility of issues where we could have done better. And the first commitment, Chair, is to improve scholar transport services. There's no question about it. We are going to improve scholar transport services. We are going to remove these unroadworthy buses from our roads. without fear or favor. We are going to remove unroadworthy buses, providing scholar transport. We are going to work with these service providers to deal with issues of driver behavior and bring an element of vetting, which we now take as a good, one of those many good advices that this commission has given us. We're taking it to them. It's a commitment. It's going to happen. Number 4, Chairperson, we're also committing that, albeit with the of budget, if you look at what happened to the budget from January last year until September, it was smooth sailing, no problems. Here and there, it's hiccups. Service providers that would have been in a joint venture, now they're fighting. Somebody submits an invoice with his personal account and we don't find it on the CSD. Then there's a back and forth and non-payment for 2 to 3 months. By the time you troubleshoot, you realize the problem is not ours, somebody else's problem. Now we are looking into those. The last one, Chair, is that we also commit to continue working with the Department of Education to ensure that conditions of service as set out in this protocol are adhered to by ourselves and our sister Department of Education. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if my colleague would want to add, Commissioner, with your permission.
Thank you so much. Now I guess it is time to put a time frame on the different reports that agreed to ensure that are available. And maybe let's hear from yourself. When do you think you can be able to provide same? Dr. Kekana?
Chairperson, we do have reports that are immediately available. I mean, some of those, especially portfolio committee reports, we've already tabled them. They're there. But in totality of issues that the commission might want us to submit, with your indulgence, Commissioner, I will check with my chief director if 7 days or 14 days will be enough. We have this information, most of it actually, except where 16 May. Okay, the chief director says 16 May, Commissioner. That's the deadline.
16 May. Thank you so much for this. And I just wanted to probe on this one. It would seem there has been changes, but what I'm not hearing is from when did these changes come about? Because there is a report as 2024 January, there were still challenges. 2025, there's also your response, there were still challenges. But it would seem when you are articulating what has been done thus far, it would seem something has shifted with regard to these challenges. At the back of my mind is that we would not be here if these challenges did not exist. But it would seem from your presentation, there's some inroads that have been done by yourselves in terms of meetings and so forth. So I would request if you can maybe tackle this question now, I would request that let us be specific even in the reports that are going to be submitted, which will then speak to at what point did you start making these inroads that you have now alluded to. Because from where I'm sitting, it would seem the challenges were still there until the hearing itself started.
Commissioner, I'll start, my colleague would add. I just want to give you a scenario when we started this contract, Commissioner. We were looking at most, when you start the new contract, you are looking at most 3 to 4 months of stabilizing a service, because you have a lot of this that are new people who are coming into the space. And what made this contract even difficult, Commissioner, is the number of providers, or it's what the tender allowed for. The tender allowed for leaseholders, which then brought you a huge number of interest. that the department ended up appointing 446 or 47 service providers. That on its own becomes a challenge, because in that midst, when you then look into that and say, let us evaluate who are the people who are really in this provision of a service called transport. You'd find that it's almost half or so. The rest are doing other things. But because the tender was open to that leaseholding, they would have gone into leases. And when the first invoices come through, they realize they're not making money, they abandon routes. When some of them don't even abandon routes, they then cancel these good buses that we verified when we said we want this type of a bus. And they know that they're transporting these kids somewhere. The bus stays in Lohacheng, it picks up kids in Lohacheng. We are not in Lohacheng on daily basis. And it's not an excuse. They know, then they would then go, they then cancel this good bus and bring these buses that we found on the route. I'll give an example on Wednesday last week when I was going. I decided there's a school that I always go to in Swartregens by the garage. It's behind the railway. And I saw a bus. I already know which buses are going into that school because we had to troubleshoot to meet. And I saw a bus with a different color and something, and I decided to drive in and find out what is happening. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the bus was not, was by the look of eyes, it was okay. But because I know the buses of that school, I had to ask. Then they said, no, our original bus has gone for a service. This is a replacement bus, and so on and so forth. Now, when that service was supposed to stabilize after 3-4 months, June, July, we were happy. We thought, no, but now we are moving. August, September 2024, then we started having an influx of problems, one challenge after the other. Reports from school principals, parents, the portfolio committee, media. We were on the news right through. Then we realized that we were having a serious challenge in our hands. And when we then broaden up the horizon, the service has collapsed. And one of those was because of the routes that were not making money. Providers opted for profit at the expense of a good service. Now they will then leave this bus that Mayor Antona was talking about, go lease this one, which has brought us where we are. So it has been a moving target to an extent where if you were to, and it's also because of the number that you are dealing with. You see here, Commissioner, you are not dealing with 5 bus companies that you'll then bring under one roof and you say, this is the situation. You are dealing with a moving target of this many. I mean, it's 780 something routes. Can you imagine the number of buses that you are dealing with? So it's a serious challenge. We were happy at some point, and suddenly it brought us here, and we realized that maybe we need to do things differently. And the 4 things that, if not 5 of that I've mentioned earlier, it's exactly what we're going to do. It doesn't speak well of us in terms of the work that we do, our professionality, as well as technocrats in the space where we're supposed to provide safe and sound transport for learners who's got the right to education, albeit with the limitations that this right gets. So that's the long and short of my response, Commissioner.
Which right is violated? Not really limited. It's violated. The department has been earmarked to provide transport. With the challenges that you have alluded to, it is so that it then defeats the entire purpose of accessing the right to education. And that's the point of departure. Now, whether this is within your mandate or it is within the mandate of the Department of Education, but what is paramount is the right to education that is not able to be realized. Whether you say it's because you don't have human resources, there's no warm bodies that are able to monitor, whether it's because the buses that are being brought are not really buses that are fit for the purpose, all that given, but the right is being violated. And that's the point of departure. Are we able to agree on that one, Dr. Kekan? As we want these children to one day also become the doctors of Northwest as well.
No, Commissioner, I don't agree. My assessment of a violation and a limitation to a right in terms of interpretation differs from yours, Commissioner. And I would want to keep my responses I've presented previously.
And I'll still come back and say, your MEC sat there with you, and he said, I accept the right has indeed been violated. You were sitting right there with him, and never at any point did you come in and say to him, I don't agree, MEC. And I thought you were presenting a united front on the day in question, because he said, I accept. The questions that they posed to you this morning by Mr. Mdabe, these were the same questions that were canvassed with the MEC, where the MEC said, I take full responsibility. As a department, we have indeed failed. We have violated this right. So we've got two very crucial members of the department that are obviously not in agreement from what you're saying. Was he understood it differently? But I suppose the buck stops with him. And maybe that's where I should leave it.
Agreed, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you so much once more for availing yourselves until this time of the day. But of course, we will still want you to stay on, because we're now going to have the MEC for Education, and there might be certain aspects that are going to be raised that might just require us to come back to yourself, just for clarity and so forth. Thank you so much, and you're excused from the podium. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you,
we are
Commissioner.
now going to have the MEC please to take the stage, MEC for Education as well as the HOD. May we have them come to the fore. Thank you so much. I believe we do have tea at the back. Let's just have working tea. You're welcome to have it whilst we are busy. Just please do it silently. Please do it silently. Please do it silently. MEC, is there anyone else joining you except for the HOD?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is Dr. Mvula going to need a mic as well? Is it possible to move it in such a way that it's in the middle? Or there's a roving mic? Okay. Thank you so much. MEC, before we get into the business of the day, may I request that you stand in order to confirm whether the oath or the affirmation. Please state your full names for the record
I, Ntitsa O Viola Mutsumi,
and your age.
42 years old.
Apologies, I know women don't want to state their age, but you're still young. That's a good thing. Do you have any objection taking the prescribed oath?
No.
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
Yes, Commissioner.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, but nothing but the truth? If that is so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you so much. You may take a seat. MEC, you have got 3 people that have joined you. So there is the HOD, Mr. Masilo, he's going to testify as well. Also the legal practitioner, is she also going to testify as well as Dr. Mvula? Thank you. May I then move over to you, Mr. Masilo? Please stand up. Your full names, please.
Prince Marcelo,
Your age.
60,
Is it the oath or the affirmation?
the oath, Commissioner.
Do you have any objection in taking the prescribed oath?
No,
Do you regard it as binding on your conscience?
yes, Commissioner.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth? If that is so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you so much. You may take your seat. May we move over to you. Your full names, please, Counsel. Your age.
37.
Is it the oath or the affirmation? Do you have any objection in taking the prescribed oath? Do you regard it as binding on your conscience?
Yes.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth? If that is so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me.
Thank you so much. May take a seat. Dr. Mvula, your full names, please.
Shadrach Mvula,
Your age,
60,
affirmation or oath.
information.
All right. This time I had to look for it because I thought I wasn't doing justice to it. Do you have any objection taking the affirmation?
No objection, Commissioner.
Do you consider the affirmation to be binding on your conscience?
Yes, Commissioner.
Do you then truly affirm that the contents of this declaration you're about to take is the truth, nothing but the truth? If that is so, please raise your right hand and still say, "I affirm."
I affirm.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are now going to go to the preliminary issues with regard to the unavailability of the MEC on the previous occasion. And MEC, I will look to the other side maybe before I come to you. Mr. Nkonde, would you like to firstly then allude to the situation with regard to the unavailability of the MEC before she responds?
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner and Chairperson of the session. Good afternoon to the Department of Education team led by the MEC. Commissioner, I think the preliminary issues are already part of the record, just to highlight through them. The commission, initially when it started the investigation, wrote a letter or a notice to the office of the MEC, inviting her to be part of, or to make submissions initially to the investigation. The submission for the purpose of record and in terms of the new bundle, the notice is part of the new bundle. It's page 994. Mr. Likoma, Tsidiso sent out the communication to the office of the MEC on the 27th of January 2025, which is already part of the record. And it was sent to the emails, Dr. Lebohang, I think, who is managing the office of the MEC. And then after the email was sent, an email on the 18th day of February came through from one Lebohang Maku, I think the doctor that I alluded to earlier, saying that they have, or the email does not have any attachment and then Mr. Likoma sent a follow-up and attached the set document. That was the 18th of February. And then part of the notice was also requesting that the MEC appear before the hearing or the inquiry to give evidence. And then two things. One, there was no receipt of the submission that, and second part, there was also no appearance of the MEC on the day. These are the issues that I wanted to place on record, and without going further, communication has happened, which I would not want to speak to. The MEC would speak to it, and maybe it's an opportune time, maybe to allow the MEC to speak on her behalf on the reasons for her non-appearance. I will pause the commission. Thank you.
May we just put on record the email address to which the notice was sent? The time, you have already alluded to the date, the time when this communique was sent out, as well as the counter
Thank you.
thereof. Thank you.
The initial email is found on page 999. The first email that was sent out, it was sent out at 18:16 on the 27th of January. It was a Monday. The email address that the notice was sent to, I would just put it on record. It's lmauco@nwpg.gov.za. And the second email is leboauco@gmail.com. The people who were CC'd or copied in the email is goletumiso@gmail.com, and Mesheli Mlombo, Mr. Emmanuel Nkonde, Miss Liano Mudigwe, were also copied. The title or the subject of the email was Notice of Inquiry, South African Human Rights Commission. The attachment is reflected, is written MEC-DOE, inquiry notice, and there's a rider that it's marked high importance. The email reads, "Good day, MEC. Kindly see the attached for your urgent attention." No response was received until a follow-up, in fact, a follow-up from Mr. Likoma was sent on the 18th of February, 2025, 2:15 in the after, sorry? One zero zero one. Yes, the initial email was sent, the follow-up was sent by Mr. Likoma. It reads, it was sent on the 18th of February, 2025 at 11:22 a.m. It reads, "Good day. I am following up on this matter. May we kindly urgently receive your response by no later than 28 February 2025. Regards, Tsidiso." And then a response came around 1356 from one Lebohang Marco. I think let me just put the surname on record. It's MAUCO. The email address is lmauco@nwpg.gov.za. It's an official email. It was a Tuesday, 18th February. The email was sent at 13:56 to Mr. Dr. Lebohang. And then people who were copied again, it's GOLETUMISO@gmail.com, Emmanuel Conde, Liana Modikwe, and Shelim Lombo. The subject of the email was Notice of Inquiry, South African Human Rights Commission. It reads, "Good day. Kindly note that there is nothing attached to this email. Thank you. Kind regards." Kind regards. That was the end of the email. And then 2:15 on the same day, that is the 18th of February 2025, Mr. Likoma responded to the email to lmauco@nwpg.gov.za, copying Shelim Lombo, Liano Modikwe, Emmanuel Nkonde, and Onkarabetsi Tebeng was added. And the subject is FW, Notice of Inquiry, South African Human Rights Commission. Then the attachment appears now, which is marked as MEC-DOE-Inquiry Notice PDF. The content or the body of the email says, "Good day, kindly find attached." And then, "May we please receive your response, preferably by no later than 28 February. Regards, Tsidiso." That is the end of the email. That is the information we have of the commission corresponding with the office of the MEC and the response thereof. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Nkonde. MEC, this is the open time then to just set the record straight with regard to what you have now heard from Mr. Nkonde. These were the communications that were sent to your office to a doctor, Lebogang, as it has been said. So please then, can you deal with